Would purists go for an all-electric Porsche 911? How's it going? Hope you've been able to get out there and drive something fun. Recently, the governor of California issued an executive order that all new vehicles being sold in the state will have to have zero emissions at the tailpipe by 2035. Now, I'm not going to turn this into a political video about climate change and all that kind of stuff because that's a bad rabbit hole to go down. There are two real-world options for this mandate. Car companies can either go all electric or hydrogen. While hydrogen has a major advantage in quick refills, electric cars have a better infrastructure today. So currently, most automakers are exploring the all-electric route. Now, California is a major market for automakers. If the state of California was its own country, it would have the 6th largest economy in the world. And that's still true post-COVID, although it's getting less true as things continue to go. Porsche already has a production EV in the Taycan or Taycan. And beyond this, there have been rumors of an all-electric Cayman and Boxster in recent years. But would Porsche even touch its iconic 911, the car that the company is known for? Now, one thing about Porsche enthusiasts is a lot of them don't like change at all. Changes like going from an air-cooled engine to a water-cooled engine, they have not been met with much fanfare by what are often referred to as the Porsche Purists. Even if such moves are an evolutionary move that is required to continue to let the car keep up with other makes and models, purists would much rather Porsche stick with the time-tested formula of the 911. Engine in the back, and it's cooled by God's good air. Now, of course, no 911 is any more cooled by air. They are water cooled. Really, Porsche had developed the 911 Flat 6 as much as they could to get as much horsepower as they could from the air-cooled models, so they had to go water cooled. But this doesn't stop some from considering a water-cooled 911 a whole different beast from an air-cooled 911. Other changes that have been met poorly by purists are things like the change to electronic power steering, and more recently, changing all of the Carrera models to be turbocharged so that you can only get a naturally aspirated model if you go to a GT car. As you look at how the automotive technology has changed, the next logical step in the evolution is to electrify the 911. So if we use the Taycan as a model of how an all-electric 911 might be, there's a lot to like about it. While you don't get that wonderful flat 6 whale that a 911 is known for, you would get a very comfortable ride, very fast, instant torque, and a cabin that is very quiet. You could have a conversation, you can listen to your music, and really, if you look at the 911 as it's become more of a GT car, this does fit fairly well with the GT car feel, although occasionally it would be nice to turn on an exhaust note. Potentially, the 911 could also come with more storage, since you don't have to have an engine just in the back anymore. As I mentioned, the real benefit is the amount of torque that you get from these cars. Looking at other electronic cars on the market and like Taycan, potentially having a 911 with a sub 2-second 0 to 60 time is not out of the question. Now, the Taycan does not have the range of a Tesla. You can't go quite as many miles without charging it. However, it is more dependable in 40 driving situations, which is what you want with a Porsche. And you can argue that with a 911, less people are going to be worried about driving 300, 400, 500 miles in their car. 911s are often used for weekend drives. You're maybe driving 100 miles at most. Now, a lot of people are like me where you daily drive your 911, so you're driving to the office or whatever, but you're not necessarily driving 200 or 300 miles where you couldn't get a charge in between. So if the range is over 250 miles in a 911, for most people, that's going to be very acceptable. Besides the potential of being a huge step forward for the 911 in performance on the road, this also opens doors to an all-electric GT class racing for the 911. However, and I've heard this said about the Taycan as well, many current Porsche 911 owners would consider the 911 as an electric car as a completely different thing. It's no longer a 911. Sure, it might still have the 911 badge, but you don't get that flat six whale. And from the beginning of time with the 911, the engine has been in the back, with the exception of the GT1 race car, and you have a flat six powering that car. Yes, sometimes it's turbocharged. Yes, sometimes it's water cooled, sometimes it's air cooled, but it's always been in the back and a flat six. So if this happens, at least in the state of California, and there are other countries that are doing similar things, people who have older 911s that are gas powered, like the one behind me, may end up having cars that become worth a lot more money because guess what? They won't be allowed to make gas powered 911s anymore, at least in the state of California. Porsche could also go the route of making a gas powered 911 and making an all electric 911. And in California, you can only buy the all electric one, but in other states you can buy either. If that happened, a gray market would probably open up in California, at least until loopholes were closed, with people looking at how can I buy a car in, say, Nevada and take it into California. And of course, the idea of California going all electric is dependent on the grid getting upgraded. Recently, we've had rolling blackouts in various areas because not enough power is being generated to keep up with people running their air conditioner during sweltering heat. In order to have all new cars be electronic only vehicles, our grid would need a major overhaul in the state of California. And honestly, California is in a better spot than a lot of other places. So if Porsche did go all electric with the 911, it could make a very crazy market between gray markets and used cars, where even your least loved 911s become extremely sought after just for the fact that they still have a flat six. Electric cars are incredible. They're fast, they're quiet, they're fairly dependable, and they have less moving parts. But for me and a lot of enthusiasts, a Porsche 911 won't be the same as an electric vehicle. The flat six is the heart of a 911, and that would be going away. You can't have a true 911 with the heart gone. Would I drive it? Yes. Would I enjoy it? Probably. But owners of gas-powered 911s probably won't give up their gas-powered 911 because the experience will be considerably different. And even if you don't drive it as often, having that experience of the flat six whale, having the steering feel, especially if you have one without the electronic steering, having just a lot of the dynamics that will come from these older 911s that go away, that'll be invaluable to many people. From a purist standpoint, if Porsche goes all electric, for most current 911 owners, they then have a different car. I know they'll have to take away my gas-powered 911 by force. It's not to say I wouldn't have an electronic family car, but for me, I would keep my gas-powered 911. So will going all electronic kill the 911 as we know it? Yes. Yes, it would. But it'll probably be the sports car that all electronic sports cars are compared to. If you'd like to see me go over the pros and cons of buying a 996 generation Porsche 911 C4S, check out this video. Otherwise, check out the video that YouTube thinks you should watch. Now get out there and drive.